Yo, yo, yo.
Hi, everybody.
What's up, people? I did the group check.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I realized we could do it during the countdown. We don't have to wait till the countdown's over. Like, every time we wait. I noticed we're both sitting today.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
to
it's
the
interesting
sheer,
because I feel like you and I are both battered.
the sheer exhaustion of what has occurred.
Yeah. If you're here, by the way, as you're coming in, guys, just in the comment box, drop a hi. Let us know that you're here. Let us welcome you.
Yeah, especially
All
if
right,
it's
Nikki's with us. Cool.
especially if it's your first time. Please tell us that you're new to the community. Cool.
Yeah, for sure. We can say hi to you. Bookends. What's up, Danny?
Hope you're doing well.
All right, so who do we got with us? Vanessa, welcome. Let me actually open this so I can.
Yeah.
Arlette, welcome.
Lynn.
Colleen, nice to have you guys coming with us. Welcome, everybody. As we jump in today, I know we're going to talk about relationships, and I was just driving and had a thought that usually when people want to join us on one of these conversations, it's for a reason, right? Like there's something here that you're maybe wanting to hear or get feedback on, etc. So as you guys are coming in and as we're doing the intro, if there's a particular situation that you are wanting some insight into today, a particular relationship or a hardship inside of a relationship, drop that in the comment box as well right now. So maybe there's like a situation with your husband or wife or your kids, your parents. I was just talking to someone earlier with that. Just let us know like what specifically is there, and we can maybe tailor this conversation to focus a little bit about that as well.
Could also certainly be interpersonal, meaning with yourself.
Or it can be a relationship to self around.
It's kind of like showing up to a radio show. And then these two guys are talking and you want to ask them questions. What would that question be? So just a little personal background. Yila and I are both standing, and if our energy feels a little bit low, I am...
We're sitting, by the way, just so for clarity's purposes.
Did I say standing?
You did.
Yeah. So I'm still a little foggy. Our house got hit with COVID, and 10 of us all got sick at one time. So I've been dealing with that. And as a top it all off, when I started coming out of it, I got a horrible toothache. And if anybody's ever had a toothache, it's like the world's worst pain. And I ended up having to sit with it for about 5 or 6 days in pretty agonizing pain, without getting into all the details, because no one will see you when you have COVID, as it turns out. So it was kind of like one bad situation made worse by another situation. So I'm just coming out of that storm right now, and I'm still pretty foggy. Today was like the first night I slept without showing like significant symptoms. So welcoming myself back from all of that.
Yeah. It was rough when I saw Guy on Saturday. It was a pretty scary sight at that moment.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he's back and better. I am sitting, because very strangely, I don't know if any of you guys know about the Master Cleanse, but you're basically drinking a concoction of squeezed lemons, maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and water. And that's all you drink and there's no food, no other water. That's all you do for 10 straight days. That's all you put in your body. And I've done this multiple times, but for whatever reason, this Sunday evening, I was hit with a one tonsil just on my right-hand side, decided that it was going to excrete, I guess, or detox all the toxins that have been built up through all of these decades of my life, it seemed like. But it was as bad as any strep that I've ever had, where it was like every time I swallowed, it was just like, and then just like a knife with acid on the tip of it, just digging into your tonsil. So I'm better today, but it's still, I still have a little bit of a tonsil thing. So anyway, it's funny that we're both on here like a little bit battered. It's a very unusual thing when both
Unusual thing,
we're going
for
through
sure.
something at the same time.
Just coming in limping over the line.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm glad that we were able to be here because Sunday evening is looking doubtful. So happy to have you guys here with us. And so yeah, let's jump right in. I think I did see here.
Yeah, there's a slew of questions in there that we could tackle. Do you want to
Okay,
give?
cool.
Do you want to give an overview of any kind on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just give an overview a little bit, and why don't you read one of the comments or questions and see which one you want to kind of go with first, and then I'll give you guys a little bit of an overview. So, relationships. It's interesting because what you've probably already noticed without me even saying it is that there's certain relationships in your life that are a lot more stressful and a lot more difficult than others. There's certain relationships, maybe you have a friend where it's like super, super easy. And then you have other relationships, maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's your children, or maybe it's the self, that are a lot more turbulent and a lot harder. And this could be for a variety of reasons, and I'm sure we're going to start to tackle a bunch of the different ones as we go through some of these questions. Overall speaking, there's a couple of ways that one could deal with relationships. And I'm going to first start by the way that most of you, and if as I'm saying this resonates with you, just in the comment box, please let us know. Say like, yes, this is how I've been trying to deal with it, right? So most people, and I'm talking like the already enlightened beings who are out there reading books and like the ones who are looking to better themselves. I'm not even talking about the ones that are just like ho-hum, same old, like I'm just going to be this way and I'm just resigned that this is how my life is and blah, like, so you're already in the 1% of humanity if you're doing this, right? Which is you read books on relationships. Maybe you read books on personal development, on how to improve yourself so that you could be better in relationships. Maybe that you could show up better as a parent or as a husband or wife, etc. And maybe you've even attended seminars or even hired a coach to work with. And what you find is that as you do this, there's a part of you that as you're improving yourself and wanting to improve the relationship, maybe the other person isn't quite coming on the ride with you. And that leads to, at first, maybe like an annoyance, then a frustration, then an anger, and then a resignation. So if you're tracking any of this as I'm kind of like mapping this out for you, let me know if this is where you kind of fall in. And then every time you try something and you're very hopeful that it works and you put it into practice and then it doesn't, you fall down and you just start beating yourself up and you throw out the lessons, this didn't work or that teacher didn't work or this book wasn't good or blah, blah, blah. And then eventually you get to a place where you're just really, really resigned. And you're just like, this is how relationships got to be. This is just, and you just sit there and you hunker down. And a relationship becomes this thing that you either just swallow or you're constantly angry and resigned and upset and frustrated by. And it feels like no matter how much you do it, it's like hitting a wall, your head against the wall over and over, and nothing's happening. And so if that's you and that resonates with you, then what we want to share with you today, and by the way, the reason I would assume that this resonates with you is because Guy and I have been through this. I'm not talking about this because I read this in a book and they told me, you know what, like this is what people go through. No, like this is exactly what we went through. Guy and I spent 12 years of doing the exact kind of things that you're doing, the work, the reading the books, the having these conversations with these people, that, taking responsibility for things, all of it. Did it make our relationships better? Yeah, it probably did.
I think responsibility made our relationships better.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's like kind of like a 3-element process people go through. So, when you're, and this is really no judgment on anybody. I think it's kind of like a 3-state of awareness, 3-state of psychology kind of situation. It's like something is happening to you. So, right, you feel victimized by a situation. There are situations I still feel victimized by, right? Like there's like, I haven't built like if you're sick, like Elon's got, strep. It's difficult not to be with like, ouch, this is happening to me, right? Like that might be a first level of awareness that you have with it. Like for me, when I got a toothache in the middle of COVID, the helplessness of knowing that I couldn't go see somebody that would help me immediately hit. Like I am being victimized by this pain. I mean, for those of you guys who've had severe toothache pain, you might know what I'm talking about. It's like nothing helps. It's like being tortured. So, and then there's, then you kind of like move through your layers, right? The next layer is, okay, this is happening for me. What's the opportunity here? And from that place, you start getting this sense of responsibility. Okay, I can be responsible for the pain. There must be some significance to this being in my life right now. What is it trying to teach me, right? And then where we work with people to get to is beyond just this is happening for me. It's actually to get them to a place of awareness, not just an understanding of it's happening through me. Okay, so just kind of gauge where you are right now with whatever is happening in your life. But from what I can see, at least in this group over here, and bro, I didn't mean to kind of steal your thunder if you were in the middle of it. Is it, look, if you're having relationship issues, right? And someone mentioned her 82 mom who's dyslexic. Like you're not going to take your 82-year-old mother, right, who's set in her ways, to a therapist, and suddenly your mother is just going to be like a different person because she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been acting this way for 60 years. Like, and so of course you might feel victimized by that. Now, if you're at that level and dealing with your mom from that level of mind, your mom is going to keep showing up the way your mom has always shown up. Okay. I think Natalie mentioned about her relationship with her husband of 20 years. That's been a struggle, and sounds like maybe even more. Again, like, it's unlikely that you're suddenly going to have a revelation where the husband changes all the way. But we want to tell you that these things do happen, just not in the way that people predict or think that they're supposed to happen. Okay. So hang with me on what I'm saying here. And the undertow of what a lot of everybody else I read, and now I see a lot more stuff is coming through. And again, if you're resonating with this, hit some likes, be like, yep, I totally get what you're saying. And we want to let you know that there is a way to move through levels of mind rather rapidly. And at every level of mind, you're suddenly going to find that not only is there an awareness that's developed, but that awareness is able to easily and rather progressively see the differences between it's happening to me, it's happening for me, like an opportunity, it's happening through me. That's just what that layer or that frequency or that awareness of mind actually naturally guides you to, right? It's not like you have to work very hard. So look, how many of you guys here, for example, and you could say yes or no in the box, like you've been trying to change yourself, or you've been trying to change this person so that you can change yourself? Like, how is that going? Like, how does change go? How does it go when we meddle with things in our lives? Are they shifting, for example? Is your relationship getting better? And by the way, guys, look, we talk about relationships and we think immediately about our spouses or children, things like this, but we are relational beings. There's nothing that human beings don't have a relationship to. It's always me and those things, that thing over there, right? And by the way, notice like that thing over there, we have an object-object relationship to most things. And I'm going to clue in on that because there's something that causes when we have an object-object relationship. We may or may not dabble in that, but it's just something I want to like almost point you to. So like, how is that going, right? Like trying to change everybody, trying to change the world, trying to make people think and feel and act like you, trying to make people believe in your politics or your identity politics. Like, go anywhere in the world right now where there's an example of people trying to change their relationship to something. And really what they're saying is, I don't want to change my relationship. I need your relationship to me to be exactly the way that I want it to be, or else. That's kind of like the rebuttal, right? And so we look across the political spectrum, social spectrum, there's nowhere that I can really point to where I've ever seen in my life or in anybody else's life where they're trying to change something and it's effectively being done. Okay. So if that's a model that is not working, and yet everyone's modeling this model, we may want to consider that we want to perhaps let go of this model, that it is a model of a certain layer or frequency or awareness of mind that uses but has failed, and that the only way out of that trap is to actually change the perspective, right? And I really mean frequency here, change the complete frequency of where we're operating from, awareness from, and then from that place, there's a whole other action. And actually, ironically, the action at the highest level of, or the higher levels of mind, is no action at all, which seems silly and crazy to some, but it's amazing. Like, when we sit with our mentor, for instance, and we do a lot of energetic work, like we don't really sit there and do like therapy anymore or figure it out. Like, because again, and this is what I've been kind of pointing to here, is the why it's happening doesn't matter. Why your spouse is treating you this way, while interesting, doesn't matter. And even if you knew why your spouse was treating you that way, this information would not change your spouse treating you that way. Your mother acting the way that she acts towards you, while the why would be interesting, would not change why your mother is acting that way towards you. Why you can't seem to fully love yourself and accept and receive and all the things, while, again, understanding the why. And that's what all the books talk about, is they try to understand the why for you, thinking that if you just had enough information, suddenly you're going to have this like magnificent breakthrough. But here's what I want to tell you. The why gives no access to how the body feels, right? Or not just how the body feels, what the body is literally emanating as a vibration or frequency. Because for most of you guys, what hasn't changed your entire life is the vibration, the frequency that your body's outputting. Just kind of like sit with that for a moment. Like, what hasn't changed in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, not really, is that there's no differentiation in the frequency of the energy that the body's emanating. And to take it a step further, the way reality shows up, the way people respond to you, the way people feel when they're around you, how they're compelled to act towards you, is in a relationship to that frequency. Just think about it in terms of music, how you might hear, a really beautiful song that moves you and gives you a certain experience of life, and then like listening to heavy metal, like there's just a feeling, there's a certain response that music, that vibration, that frequency will have. So what we want to look at is really, how do people shift, and maybe I'll hand it over to Elon here, right? Like, how do people shift the frequency first, and then look at taking action differently later on once the frequency has changed. And just to kind of like put the softball out there for Elon, like what I wanted to talk about is what we see with clients who have spent decades trying to change a spouse. And then they do the kind of work that we're talking about here. And it would be exactly the same, by the way, with self-love, self-work, inner work. It's an interrelationship you have. You have a child that is looking for something, that's looking for some kind of energetic attunement from you. And then you have the parent, right, or the conditioning, or the programming, right? I'd actually use those words interchangeably. What you learn from your parents through perception, what you learn from society through perception, what you learn from media and books and through perception, and you internalize that, made that your adult, and then your adult treats your inner child pretty much the same way, or the opposite way that your parents treated you, which is why you have the same struggle your entire life, because you didn't like that when you were a kid, and you don't like it anymore now that you're an adult, doing that to your body, your inner child, so to speak, right? Do you kind of know what I'm getting at here, bro?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But there's something else that I want to.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to really like simplify it for you. And this is, the reason you read the books, the reason you watch these videos, all that stuff, is because at the end of the day, and this might be difficult for some of you to admit to yourself, there's something inside that doesn't feel okay. I'm just going to label it a discomfort, right? Husband does something, it triggers something inside, discomfort happens. Your child does or doesn't do something inside gets triggered, you don't feel comfortable. Your boss calls you into his office, something at work, boom, something inside makes you feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way that traditional personal development has you work is it has you look at the external. So let's just use an example with your husband, right? It has you look at the external and it gives you a process. Okay, have this conversation with your husband. Let's sit down and write down what we're committed to. It tells you, create a vision board and tell you I'm in a loving relationship with my husband. Write that down 100 times. And you start like mapping all these things out. And if you look at it, everything that you're doing is trying to meddle and work with the external. Everything. And then even if the thing that you were doing creates a shift for 2 days, you might get really excited. You're like, oh my God, it's working, it's working, it's working. And then something happens inevitably. And guess what gets disrupted again? That same piece inside that didn't feel good before now gets triggered again. Maybe he doesn't pay attention to me. So like they don't pay attention to me, or a feeling of rejection or whatever it might be. Something's going to happen that's going to hit that thing again. And then you're back to square zero. But on top of square zero, you're almost like at a negative deficit now, because on top of that, it's nothing that I do works. It doesn't matter. I suck at this. I'll never have the life that I want. Now, so on top of the fact that the inside doesn't feel good, there's just shame and guilt and all this other stuff that you're piling on top. And then what happens? And then you go, oh, I know what I need. I need to go find another book because that one didn't work. But every time you guys do this, what I want to share with you is, if you're meddling and if you're working on your external anything, weight, money, it doesn't matter. If you're working externally, at best, you're going to have a momentary lapse where it's going to work, and then something's going to happen, and that same old thing is going to get triggered inside. You're not going to feel good inside, and all that other stuff's going to crumble. Who knows exactly what I'm talking about? And you start riding this like yo-yo wave throughout your life. How many of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about? So today, if you take anything away from today, is that there's another way to go about this. There's a way that you could stop meddling. And when Guy was saying like do nothing, it's not necessarily like do nothing. It's just don't do anything out here externally.
Yeah. Don't keep making waves in the water.
That's it. You're the one. Like all that's happening is your external world is reflecting something inside of you that you haven't wanted to take a look at because it's uncomfortable in there. You don't like it in there. I'm going to use a Michael Singer explanation, which I think I love, which is like inside every trauma that you've ever had is this vial. And in this vial, you like put all this stuff inside, like the way you felt and the way it smelled, and it just smells vile. It's rancid. It's like the stinkiest thing you've ever had. And every time someone hits it, it opens the vial, and that putrid smell just opens up inside of you. You're like, oh my God, I got to close it. I got to close it. I got to get rid of it. And you will run around like everything in your power to make it go away. But if we look at life through energy, and you are energy, right? This energy is being touched and exposed such that you now have an opportunity to release it. People always talk about my heart's broken, my heart's broken. And I just think that's an absolute misnomer. If your heart's broken, when we say your heart is broken, you tell me, are you feeling more sadness and more grief than you've ever felt in your life while your heart is broken? Do you feel more when your heart is broken, or do you feel less when your heart is broken? When something is broken, like when this is broken, it's not doing anything. The music doesn't play louder, right? The calls don't get better. It doesn't do anything. So if in the moments where we say our heart's broken, we're actually feeling more than we've ever felt, it's not that our heart's broken. It's just that our hearts are blasted open.
Lots of access.
Exactly.
And
Now,
for most, too much access. Yeah.
exactly. Now
Yeah.
you can use with the right tools, okay? With the right tools, what if you could use every one of these nanosecond moments that you have with your husband or your wife or your kids, where there's a disturbance inside, something inside goes, I don't know. And then the mind goes, oh, I know how to fix this. And for some of you, the fixing it could be running away. For some of you, the fixing it could be getting angry. For some of you, the fixing could be getting sad. For some of you, the fixing could be eating chocolate or drinking wine or working out or forgetting everything and diving into work. Whatever your fix is, that's the strategy that you've come up through the decades to avoid this sensation. But what if there was a way that you can use all of these inputs as opportunities to actually release this stuff once and for all and heal, so that the next time I saw a question earlier on, so I'm just going to pull from it a little bit. It's like you say to your husband, hey, why don't we go do this, this, and this? And he goes, no, I just want to watch TV. The part inside that feels rejected every time he does that, or even doesn't do that, or says something or doesn't say something, what if that part didn't even get rejected? There's just no reaction to what he was doing. What if you could actually like maintain that place of balance and peace and groundedness in every one of those moments? And one thing, bro, and then think about this for a second. I always, like, I never got to meet Jesus, but I'd imagine, based on what I've heard, that, if you and your husband were in a room together, right? There are things that you are doing, whether you're saying something or not saying something, that are triggering the other person, and vice versa, right? Like you've walked into a room and there's a certain person and there's like things just are happening because energy is always there. My question is, like, if Jesus walked into that same room, do you think that your husband would be the same person? Think about that for a second. Like, there's an energetic makeup of who we are that's always triggering the other person. When we release these triggers inside of us, there is no longer this other energy that triggers the other person. One of my favorite stories from one of our clients was she was in a relationship and her husband would like talk nasty to her, like really nasty to her. And they were like on the verge of divorce and da 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 da. She tried everything. And we were like, all right, what if you didn't do anything in that relationship? Stop having the conversations with him. Stop this. Stop trying to fix him. Stop trying to change him. Stop trying to change yourself. Stop all of it. And focus on loving the parts of yourself that get triggered when these things happen. Well, she did. And in 2 weeks, I'm not even kidding. This wasn't like 2-year program. In 2 weeks, we meet again and she's like, you will not believe what happened, which is one of my favorite, I think I would agree, like one of our favorite sayings, because we always believe it, because it's just, this is how this stuff works. You don't believe it yet, and that's cool. She goes, he's a completely different person. He was nice to me. And it's because she found ways to acknowledge and be nice to those parts inside. This is what's on offer here today, my friends. Like, I'm telling you right now, if you want these kind of relationships, and I'm just going to jump into it right here, like we're going to keep going, but I just want to let you know, January 8th and 9th, we are holding a 2-day live event. And if you are seriously committed to having powerful, unimaginably juicy relationships, even the ones that you've completely resigned to, be at this 2-day event. If your relationships don't shift, come get your money back. I'm not like, I just know this stuff works. But here's the thing. I think people like to talk about doing things, but they don't take action. They don't put their money where their mouth is. They don't take the steps necessary. They dance around it. Oh, I want my relationship to change. Yeah, great. What are you doing about it? And then someone says, hey, come to a 2-day event, spend 2 days learning some new tools and do that. And then something's going to come up inside of you, go, no, I don't have time. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. All the bullshit excuses. Your actions speak to your commitments, not your words. Truly. You can talk about wanting 6-pack, but what are you doing about it? Did you change your diet? Are you going to the gym? You can talk about wanting to make more money. What are you doing about it? You can talk about having great relationships. What are you doing about it? So if you actually want to do something about it, Guy, and you maybe just put up the link. It's simple. Go to intuitivemind.live and grab your ticket today, because prices are going to go up in the next week or so. And just grab it. Take action. Do something today.
Yeah.
That your relationships, your husbands, your wives, your friends will thank you for. And again, I promise you, if it doesn't, just get your money back. I got no qualms about it. Not a single person's ever asked for their money back because the shit just works. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
And if you guys have questions on the event or anything else, you guys are free to book free 15-minute strategy calls with our concierge consultants and get those questions answered and then figure out if it's a good fit for you. Okay. So I want to give you guys like the spiritual science behind why what we do is has incredible healing implications, and why it's nearly, I mean, I'm going to say it's guaranteed to work, because it works with the natural intelligence of the body. Because most of you guys, whatever it is that you're facing in your life, be it financial, relational, whatever it might be, you have a certain idea of how that's going to resolve itself. And I got to tell you that whatever preconceptions you may have, I'm just going to put on offer the preconceptions are always based on conditioning. There's not a single human I've ever met that knows their healing process. Not really. They have, because all those ideas come from a past, from a conditioning, and the way that healing actually occurs. So this is why reading the books and watching the videos and all the personal development courses and all that kind of stuff, it's useful and has limitation. And the limitation is that no matter how much information or wisdom you have in your head, you still are incapable of stopping the response, the energetic, sensorial, emotional, spiritual response that the body is having, that the mind then is responding to. So let me say that a different way. The sensation in the body always happens before the thought in the mind. When you walk into a room and you're scared, I don't care what you tell yourself up here. In fact, what you tell yourself up here usually brings on more fear over here, no matter how much you tell yourself, please calm down, please calm down, please calm down. Because this doesn't have a relationship to the sensorial part of you. And there's not going to be a breakthrough that's coming, or just the perfect perspective, because again, all the books more or less say the same things. They've just used fancy different words to try to make you think it's something new, but it's really the same regurgitated psychology that's been used for 70, 80 years on how to do therapy for people. But mostly therapy, again, is just about the why. Why is it happening? Okay, do you understand why it's happening? Great, now change it. But what they're saying is use willpower, which is for any addict, because that's what these conditions are. They're like an addiction that you have. It's a way that your body responds to things automatically. Like any addict, you're not going to be able to stop that response. I call it the thunder and the lightning effect. You're always going to get lightning before you hear the thunder. So the lightning is like the sensation in the body, and the thunder is the response that the mind then has to have in order to try to create some sort of safety. So our protocol is not about, hey, let's try to figure out why you don't feel safe. It's let's actually just help the body feel safe. Let's reset the foundation. And the way that we get to do that, and this is why the levels of mind that I talked in the beginning about being a victim, which is happening to you, then it's a higher level in the personal development space happening for you, and from the energetic, it's happening through you, is so important, because the only way, scientifically speaking, this is spiritual science, but it's also just scientifically speaking and how the nervous system works, is when we view what's happening in our body from an unmerged place, that system can then move through. So here's what I mean by that. Notice how when you're stuck in a relationship, money, again, whatever's going on in your life, self-worth, notice how you view from here, this conditioned mind, right? And notice how you kind of churn on it the same way. You tend to kind of like have the same thoughts about it. And then you're always like hoping that there's going to be some different outcome, but it keeps you up at night. You do the same thing. So the reason for that is you're watching it from a level of mind. As you learn how to break out of what we call a conditioned mind and step into more an awakened space, which is, again, just a matter of pointing to someone how to get their awareness over there. Once your awareness is over there, and then you come view the body and the sensations from that place, what ends up happening is the sensations dissipate. They move and they actually liberate themselves from the system. It's the difference between your system being closed like this and clenched while energy is trying to move, right? Like imagine if I'm holding this and I'm like this crystal and I'm going like this, like the crystal's not going to go anywhere. But the moment I open my hand, boom, right, it drops down. So what we get to do is the body doesn't actually know how to relax, or what's called a parasympathetic nervous system response, right? When there's a parasympathetic nervous response, we go from a fight or flight response to a rest and digest response. Energy can start flowing through the system again. And what happens is the energy actually moves out of the system, and then the sensation or this energy is what the mind is responding to. So once the sensation is gone, the mind no longer needs to be in a high alert state. It no longer needs to respond to it from the conditioned safety protocols that you learned from your family or society or what have you. And what ends up happening is the more you practice this and the more energy liberates from the body, the less and less of this fight or flight response that is needed. And I would offer that it's rare that we meet anybody that's not stuck in a chronic fight or flight response, meaning from the moment they wake to the moment they sleep, they're basically stuck in a fight or flight response, trying to operate as a parent, as a business person, functional relationships, all from a place of just constantly being guarded, looking for, where's the next threat coming from, and then using their programs to do that. So I'm going to post this really quick here, because going back to last November, we got to actually go to this place. It's the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and it was created by Dr. Edgar Mitchell. So I just dropped a quote of his in the comment box. And he was a person that when he went into space, I think it was in 73 or something like that, he had a experience of samadhi. And samadhi is basically the experience of oneness and all. And the experience was so pervasive, spiritually enlightening and awakening to such a high degree that he started an institute that would study this phenomenon and try to bring it forward into humanity for the last 40, 50 years. And we actually got to study out of the Noetic Sciences last November. So he describes it, the descriptions of samadhi were exactly what I felt. It is described as seeing things in their separateness, but experience them viscerally as a unity, as oneness, accompanied by ecstasy. Okay? So the reason I want to put that there is it is described as seeing things in their separateness. So the way that I just spoke about that when you have something in your system, the way that it moves through, the way that you have a parasympathetic response, that the body can go into a healing process automatically and perform what we call just like a neutral healing in the body, the way it can do that is through separateness and unmerging your consciousness from the system that's performing that action. When that separateness, that action can be unmerge from the system. Again, the energy can move through. And as it moves through, suddenly there's a natural healing that occurs. And then there's a feeling of oneness and wholeness that follows that. Now, here's the thing. Here's why we guarantee that this works, is because Elon and I don't do the healing. We're not psychologists. We're not healers. We're nothing like that at all. We are people who have invested a lot of time in understanding linguistics, its effect on people, manifestation, psychology, plant medicine work, shamanic work. I mean, you name it, we've probably dabbled in it or have spent a long time doing it. And we can tell you after doing all of that, that the thing that we have found that works time and time again for everybody and everybody is starting to do these awareness practices and starting to work with the energetics of the body. Because nobody, not Elon, not me, not Tony Robbins, not the best fucking gurus on planet Earth, know 2 trillion cells in your body and then the billions and trillions of neurons in your brain are wired together. Nobody could possibly know that. Here's the reality. You don't know it either. However, it all comes from the same resource and source of energy. And that awakened consciousness absolutely does know how to rewire everything. And what we have found is that there's a universal law of neutrality. Everything in the universe is always attempting to get into the balance. So if our body, if our consciousness, if our relationships, if our finances are not in balance, then the one creating the disbalance is us. We're the people in the water just chugging away, moving our feet, creating all these vibrations. So what this allows to do, this process, allows for the body to enter a neutral state naturally. And then whatever needs to be healed at that time, whatever the body is ready for, whatever your spirit and energy is ready for, is what ends up happening. So if that's around your relationships, great. If that's around your well-being and health, great. If that's around your self-worth, great. If that's around your finances, great, whatever it is. But here's the thing. The moment you let go of you, like that, you know what needs to happen right now, that you know how this healing is supposed to happen, and you can bring yourself to this higher awareness state, you can start living in a state of perpetual healing. Because it becomes the foundation of who you are. You will notice over time as you practice this, and this is why we give our meditation away, by the way. We don't tell people exactly what it does, but we just say, hey, practice this. It's an active healing meditation. And then people tell us time and time again, they practice it for 7 days. They're like, I don't know what's going on, but everything in my life is shifting. And we're like, right? So you can practice the meditation, but here's what I want to tell you. Here's what our programs are about, and specifically why I would urge you to come to the 2-day that Elon described on January 8th. When, again, we are relational beings. When you have someone who's been practicing this for quite some time, like Elon and I have, and it's been about 5 years of intense, I mean, like every day doing this, right? And intensely every week, but every day there's at least some practice in our lives. When you have people like Elon and I working with you, what Elon and I have developed over time, and this can naturally happen to anybody and does naturally happen to everybody as they practice this, over time you become more and more energetically sensitive. And as you become energetically sensitive, what you can do is you can track other people's systems, their nervous systems, their energetic bodies, so on and so forth. And the way that this awareness activates is by pointing at it for someone else in real time while it's occurring. So you might be in a process, you might be sharing about some relationship that you have. Well, we're not just listening, we're also feeling what's changing in your system, and we can actually feel the energetic shifts. We could feel if something in your system is collapsing or tightening, or feeling like it's getting poked. And we'll actually say, hey, stop 1 moment. Can you feel that? And we'll teach you how to feel it. There's a very specific quality to how we feel what's happening in our system. And the moment that you start realizing that there is this whole subtle substructure of information that's coming into your system moment by moment, with every experience and every response and every thought and everything that's going on in your life, and that sensation right there, those subtle energies are what are dictating your actions automatically. You're not in control. The conditioning is in control. Is why people can't break through, is why their relationships don't change to really anything, and why people continue to respond to them differently. But the moment this process happens, you are now in a process that actively changes your vibrational frequency and evolves it. And the reason some of our clients can have these massive shifts with their partners or in their responses to themselves or just what's happening in life in general is because the moment the vibration changes, everything, every relationship you have to everything will change and be reaffirmed by that new vibration. Well, now, like, so whatever that new vibration is, now reality will change to shift and reorganize and be in alignment with that new vibration. So if you keep trying to change your life from the vibration that you're in through psychology, nothing really changes because the frequency and the vibration and the way that reality responds to that never changes. And then you're always going to find yourself being combative through that conditioning towards how things are arising. As we continue to do work like this, we really get people into what's called an emergent space. It's just suddenly falling in love with how everything is arising, how everything is emerging. And like I said, you can literally live in a perpetual state of this kind of healing, clearing, neutrality process to the point where very little that is actually impacting your life ends up happening. Right? Like once in a while, of course, like something is going to inevitably come. You haven't built the capacity to be with that quite yet, but it's exciting because every time something comes, you now have the capacity to be with it and let it move through. So really this unhooking, this unmerging teaching that we do and this real-time energetic feedback that we can give you is the reason why we guarantee our programs. It's the reason why nobody asks for refunds. It's the reason why we can be so confident that if you come to experience some kind of healing in your relationships, your life, what have you, it's going to happen because we're going to allow not for an understanding to come through, but a direct experience to happen to you that is going to radically transform the way that you experience yourself, others in life for the rest of your life, and you can't turn it off. Once it's in, it's in. So hopefully I gave a good description there and a good metaphor that just came through to share about the astronaut.
The astronaut. We went real spatial.
Real spatial today.
Yeah. Guys, so that's the crux of it. You know, like you can either, if what you've been doing hasn't provided you the results that you're looking for, come get new tools. Because if you can spend the next few months and then into years and then into decades practicing the things that we're going to show you at the level of awareness, not mind, your trajectory for healing relationships, having more money in your life, having your body just magically release weight. Some of that weight is there just as protection mechanism. Like all that stuff begins to shift as you do more and more of this. And that's the invitation. Come just check this out and try this out for yourself. Like Guy said, we just know this stuff works and it works faster and better than anything else that you've been doing. So, and again, I know this not because of what you've been doing. I know because we spent 12 years doing exactly that. And after 12 years, when we still came and bumped into the same things over and over, we're like, what the fuck? Like,
would you mind if I played I downloaded? Sorry, I downloaded Sally's video. She talks about this, like it's this relational change, and I want you guys to just see. Right,
that's exactly what I was talking about.
Okay, Sally, yeah, because there was Caitlin and a few other people too. But yeah, I want you guys to just I'll play like a super quick. It's like a minute long video of this woman shot us, and like just tune into her while you do this. I won't give too much context, but I want you guys to just see like her experience and surprise. This is an unusual event in her life because it's beyond anything she could have comprehended that could have occurred. And this is such a normal phenomenon that we see now. So I just want you guys to kind of get a little taste here. Check this out.
I'm almost on this mission of how deep can I go here? How well can I get to know myself so that somebody else can know me that way? Guys, it's beautiful. Like, I'm learning how to cherish myself. Oh, I mean, do I need to say any more? It's amazing. As I do that, as I learn to be tender with myself, meet myself with compassion, grace, no judgment, my husband kind of is meeting me with a little bit of tenderness and a little bit of grace. And I don't get it. I mean, this is a man who's backed me into corners and called me every name in the book and, all this stuff. And so to see that, it's really intriguing.
Yeah. So,
Like that.
yeah. Unpredictable, truly unpredictable. Like the people in your life will surprise you. And I got to tell you, here's what's so interesting about it. It's not because you've sat them down to have a conversation. It's not because they finally took responsibility for that thing you've been waiting for. We've done that kind of training. And you know what? Communication is really powerful and can really shift relationships. Like I don't want to dismantle that at all. If you guys have been doing that work, that's awesome. Bring it so we can help the foundation get even stronger. But it is going to boggle your mind when you do this kind of work and your mom stops saying that thing that she has said for 50 years or continues to say it, but suddenly there's no disruption in your system about it at all. It's as if it never even mattered. And you will see them saying those things and know that there's usually an eruption that takes place right now in the relationship, and you're going to be like, nothing?
Yeah.
Nope. No response, nothing to have. And there's just going to be just no response to be had. So we're living through an incredibly extraordinary, intense period of human history. I don't know if the last few weeks have turned up the dial for you guys, as it has in my life. Like, I'm not telling you that everything is perfect, but what's always exciting about when it's not perfect is I now have this knowing in my system that I've cleared so much stuff out of my system that the really deep stuff, the stuff that like I haven't really wanted to look at because it's like, like that, oh my God, that aspect of me, like those things come up when you've done work and they finally can be seen for love. Like, really, you guys get this? Like, the challenges that come up in your life, they're not there to hurt you. They're actually there to love you. Every single time something comes up, it's another opportunity to see something from compassion, from awareness, to love yourself more. But the conditioning has not allowed for that in our lives. The condition has been, let's put that away. Let's not show people that aspect of ourselves. This is the part we shame. This is the part we guilt. And then I'm going to do my personal development work and trying to become whole. It's like, I'll take all the things that I like, but the things that I don't like, they all have to go away. And I'm going to have to figure out these practices that make these things go away. Guys, if you've experienced it, it's part of the human phenomenon. And that means that an important part of the human phenomenon. Yes, even your anger. Yes, even your sadness. And same for theirs. So you guys want to start getting related to that. If, like, how many of you guys know that you just want to have your emotions, like however you're having them, they're not always pretty. And you know that it's healthy. Like, you just want to have them. You don't want to be judged every time you get angry. You don't want to be judged every time you get sad. Amazing. If you're one of these people, please write yes in the chat box. Now get this. If you bring compassion to those parts so that when they come up, they can be seen, like, oh my God, look at what my body can do. Look at this amazing system at work. As you bring compassion to that, do you guys get that when you then look out at the world and people respond with anger or hostility, instead of trying to judge them and shush them and guilt them into being some other way than what they are, you'll have compassion for them too. If you want to walk through this world peacefully, then you got to start with your guilting and trying to hide from other people. What inevitably happens is those are the parts you judge in others because they're the same parts you judge in yourself. So you can't help but see those things in the world. Changing perception is not a thought. That's willpower. That's, I want to go get that food, but I'm not going to let myself have it. And then there's this response in the body like, you should go get that food. Right? That's not breaking an addiction. That's using willpower to stop an action that eventually one day, probably not too far away, something's going to happen and you're going to go do that thing anyway. You're like, all right, just this once. Right? Because it's really about the sensorial, the subtle energetics of the human body that is determining your psychology, that is determining how reality shows up and manifests itself for you, that is determining how other people are responding to you, that is determining your level of safety, well-being, connection, love, stability. So if you want to enhance all those things, you want to reset a foundation, we guarantee that this work does all that. And again, if that rings true for you, and you really understand that this event that has occurred over this last year has been this incredible opportunity for churning all this stuff up so that humanity can start moving through it and having a much higher awareness with it, then we promise you this event is going to be like nothing you've ever experienced before.
Act quickly, my friends. We're excited. Excited for you to have these kind of results, excited for your relationships to improve, your health to improve, your financial standing to improve. This is why we're here. I feel like we were gifted an insight into something that is incredibly powerful, and it's profound to share it with others. It really is. It's one of the things that we look forward to the most. So grab your tickets quickly. Again, intuitivemind.live is where you want to go. Prices will go up here. I don't know the exact date. Maybe Guy can tell you, but we'll go up. There's different tiers. And if you do have any questions, oh, I wanted to ask this, or, oh, what about this in the event, you can always book a free little call with one of our coaches at callsatori.com. And get all of your questions answered there. You can leave the comments here if you want. We can get in touch with you via personal messages on Facebook as well. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your listening. Thank you for your contributions and questions here today. We hope that this has been valuable for you. And we look forward to seeing you at one of our next live events here.
See you guys soon. Everybody be well. Happy holidays.